and Michael Gove. I said very consistently all the way through,
Okay.
Brexit gives us the freedom to run our own lives, and then it's up to us. But sadly, many of the hopes have not been delivered.
Right. So you promised something yourself, and it hasn't been delivered, but you blame the Tories for that. But you did promise something that hasn't come true.
I promised we'd be self-governing. We are.
Okay. But
We are self-governing. We are self-governing.
But it hasn't really
but
worked.
I'm afraid.
Do you want to just say it hasn't really worked, just as a starting point?
No, it's worked in the sense that we're out and we're free. The fact is that British governments have, frankly, made a complete mess of it because I don't think they ever really believed in it.
Look, thank you for that. And it's an interruptive start. I just wondered where the starting point is. So it's a sort of flawed Brexit. Can we agree on that?
It's a Brexit that hasn't matched up to the realistic expectations that many of those 17.4 million voters had.
If Keir Starmer does a new deal, it will be the first since Brexit. What would you do with his deal if you were Prime Minister?
We get rid of it. I mean, he's going to give free movement of people to the under 30s. We know that'll be a one-way street. Way more people will come here than will go in the other direction. And you absolutely cannot have the European Court of Justice having a say over trade matters and technical matters. So those things we would absolutely reverse.
So you are in an odd position of pledging to rip up a deal you haven't seen. But on the other hand, I know it's a matter of principle. I mean, if we take, for example, a question what you would do on youth mobility, would you be giving anything? I mean, is it wrong for 18 to 30-year-olds to enjoy time in the UK?
It seems to me, so Keir Starmer is eyeing up this idea of access to... We have access to the single market. It's not like there's zero trade with the EU all of a sudden. This is basically paying to follow their rules again. This, honestly, whether you want to be in the EU or not want to be in the EU, surely, Mike?
Indeed. It's good to meet a friend again and to be here with you. We are friends and we are Europeans. We are very like-minded. We share the same interests and the same values. We face the same challenges, but we are complementary and also in defending our democracies.
Britain finds itself on the edge of another defining moment, one that could overshadow even the drama of Brexit. 5 years after severing ties with the European Union, a fresh storm is brewing. But this time the threat isn't across the channel, it's coming from within, right behind the doors of number 10. Keir Starmer was once viewed...
So let me be very clear. Under Labour, Britain will not go back into the EU. We will not be joining the single market or the customs union. Now, I know that some people don't want to hear that, but it's my job to be frank and to be honest. And you'll always get that from me. The reason I say this is simple. Nothing about revisiting those rows will help stimulate growth, or bring down food prices, or help British business thrive in the modern world. It would simply be a recipe for more division. It would distract us from taking on the challenges that are facing people. And it would ensure that Britain remains stuck for another decade. Under Labour, that simply will not happen.
as the steady hand guiding Britain through the Brexit aftermath. Now, critics say he's steering the country in reverse, quietly paving the way for Brussels to regain its grip. What began as murmurs of concern has exploded into a chorus of alarm bells, echoing through every corner of the political establishment, in a dramatic twist shaking the very core of
the big economies of the future, whilst Europe, much like Britain, hasn't grown at all, because Europe, much like Britain, has put stupid rules on itself that has held back that kind of growth. Anything that ties us into those sorts of sclerotic, terrible rules will be a bad thing. Don't take it from me, take it from big tech companies, big AI companies, which again, the technology of the future. You can get cool new things happening in the UK that you cannot get in the European Union because they've got stupid backwards rules to protect a European AI industry that doesn't exist at all. But if we want to have...
The British political system, the nation's top judge, has reportedly requested an urgent meeting with King Charles III. The constitutional panic hasn't been this intense since the chaos following the 2016 referendum. According to insiders, the judge's intervention was sparked by Starmer's secretive agenda for the May 19th UK-EU summit. An agenda critics say could rewrite Britain's sovereignty behind closed doors, with no public input and no vote in Parliament. At the centre of this uproar is a sharp political...
Everyone knows that slogan, and everyone knows what it meant on immigration, or at least that's what people thought. Because what followed from the previous government, starting with the people who used that slogan, was the complete opposite. Between 2019 and 2023, even as they were going round our country, telling people with a straight face that they would get immigration down, net migration quadrupled until in 2023 it reached nearly 1 million. That's about the population of Birmingham, our second largest city. That's not control, it's chaos. And look, they must answer for themselves. But I don't think that you can do something like that by accident. It was a choice made even as they told you, told the country, they were doing the opposite. A one-nation experiment in open borders, conducted on a country that voted for control. Well, no more. Today, this Labour government is shutting down the lab. The experiment is over. We will deliver what you've asked for time and again, and we will take back control of our borders.
U-turn. Starmer once vowed to honour the Brexit vote and defend Britain's autonomy, but now his government appears to be charting a path back toward. Leaks suggest major shifts are already underway. A return to EU food and farming regulations, openness to letting European courts settle certain disputes, and behind-the-scenes talks aimed at reshaping immigration policy to mirror EU standards. To critics, this isn't just a shift in policy, it's a...
People often say, well, you want to be Prime Minister, do you know how to make a tough decision? And my answer to that is, if you sat in a cell in a Caribbean jail with someone who's going to live if you get the argument right in their case and die if you don't, that's a pretty... that focuses the mind.
Calculated unravelling of Brexit itself. And it's not unfolding in public view, it's happening in backrooms, through discreet deals, bureaucratic manoeuvres, and a disturbing silence on transparency. The question now reverberating through Westminster, headlines and even royal corridors is simple but chilling. Is Britain being pulled back into Europe, not by democratic choice, but by the quiet ambition of one man? Fueling the outrage is one...
Speaking of the French, yesterday, Labour leader Sir Keir Starmer met with President Emmanuel Macron. Now, the Daily Mail are reporting that the meeting was organised by none other than Tony Blair. He is reportedly pushing the Labour leader to consider even closer ties with the EU, possibly even to reverse Brexit. Now, it's important to note this is something Labour say they're not interested in doing, but with some EU leaders announcing a form of second-tier so-called associate membership, closer alignment with the single market and greater access to the EU, is this something that a Starmer-led government might consider? Well, joining me...
One move many are calling the ultimate betrayal. Starmer's alleged plan to hand back legal power to the European Court of Justice. That's right, the same court that came to embody the very idea of foreign interference during the court millions believed they had left behind for good could soon be back in charge of UK-EU disputes. For many, it's a haunting flashback, only this time there's no vote, no voice, no say. The people demanded control. Starmer seems poised to surrender it, draped in the language of pragmatism. But for those who remember the battles of 2016, that word now feels like a thin disguise, and this is just the beginning.
In this moment, we have to recognise the new era that we are in, not cling hopelessly to the comforts of the past. It's time for us to take responsibility for our security, for our continent. And I've been clear today, Britain will take a leading responsibility, as we always have, because Ukraine must have a secure future, Europe must have a secure future, Britain must have a secure future, and democratic values must prevail.
Behind the scenes, Starmer's team is said to be putting the finishing touches on a youth mobility pact with the EU, one that would welcome thousands of young Europeans back into the UK under work, study and short-term residency schemes is being pitched as a pragmatic post-Brexit solution meant to boost the economy and promote cross-border ties, but for many, it's the thin end of the wedge. To critics, this isn't cooperation, it's a backdoor, a Trojan horse wrapped in policy language. What starts with student visas and job placements could quickly slide into a full return of free movement. And for a nation that weathered years of upheaval to put an end to that exact system, the red flags could...
What that's done is make us all a hell of a lot poorer. So all of us are poorer, there are fewer jobs, our wages have been kept down, there's less incoming investment from other nations and foreign investors. It's made all of our lives worse. What Keir Starmer's trying to do is keep Brexit, so not go back on that vote, and you're right, people did vote for that, it's right therefore that we're out. But what he's trying to do is make the best of a bad job. So do a Brexit that makes us less worse off.
James, I mean, there's 1,000 things I could say, but it's your job to do that instead of me right now.
Unsurprisingly, I disagree with this idea that it's made us enormously poorer in all kinds of ways. Just in the past week, we've seen the first glimpses of what an independent trade policy will look like with India, with the United States. Those deals are not perfect, but they're a start. They're good, and they're good relative to what the EU has had. And lots of people say, you'll never get a deal with India, you'll never get a deal with America. Well, it's happened, and those are the two, I would say, big economies of the future. Whilst Europe, much like Britain, hasn't grown at all, because Europe, much like Britain, has put stupid rules on itself that has held back that kind of growth. Anything that ties us into those sorts of sclerotic, terrible rules will be a bad thing. Don't take it from me, take it from...
Be more glaring. Tensions are rising across the country, and that timing couldn't be worse for Labour. After a bruising defeat in the recent local elections, the public's message was loud and clear. Reform UK, the party born to keep the Brexit spirit alive, made significant gains in working-class areas once seen as Labour strongholds. This wasn't a quiet protest, it was a full-throated rejection. Most politicians would take a step back, reassess, more alignment with Brussels, more EU-style policies, less regard for what ordinary voters actually asked for. The road Britain is now heading down, it's starting to feel like déjà vu, only this time no one was asked to come along. Even national security is now on the table. Defence Secretary John Healey has openly stated that the UK is ready to pour money into EU defence programmes. That's right, British taxpayers footing the bill for joint military ventures, while the EU decides where the money goes. And Britain's reward? A seat at the table, but no real influence on the menu. It's being sold as partnership, but to many, it feels like submission. Britain bankrolling Europe's defence ambitions without a say in their direction. And it doesn't stop there. Insiders claim the UK could soon be absorbed into the EU's broader defence push, including shared surveillance, coordinated troop movements, and even collaborative development of AI military tech. The result? British forces and intelligence slowly falling into step with European command. This isn't cooperation, it's a quiet shift in allegiance. That shift has raised red flags in the nation's highest courts. One senior Supreme Court figure has reportedly sounded the alarm, warning that Starmer's silent drift toward Brussels may be crossing serious constitutional lines. The biggest concern? Bringing the European Court of Justice back into the picture. Legal experts say such a move could undermine the very framework of British sovereignty. And it's no longer just legal circles paying attention. Searchers say this judge has now requested a direct audience with King Charles III. While the monarch can't step into political affairs, the fact that such a request was even made says everything about the gravity of the moment. Behind palace walls, unease is mounting. One insider described the atmosphere as deeply troubled, with growing fear that the people's mandate is being overridden behind closed doors, in secret, without consent. And now, the next chapter unfolds in plain sight. Starmer's backroom talks are moving to centre stage. On May 19th, London will host a major UK-EU summit. Ursula von der Leyen is attending. Antonio Costa, too, is being framed as the beginning of a new chapter in UK-EU relations, but behind the flags, speeches and photo ops, binding agreements are ready to be signed. And each one pulls Britain closer to the European Union once more. We've seen this before. Big promises, strategic messaging, and behind it all, the slow and steady dismantling of Brexit. For Keir Starmer, this may be the defining moment of his leadership. The legacy play he...
It's good to meet a friend again and to be here with you. We are friends and we are Europeans. We are very like-minded. We share the same interests and the same values. We face the same challenges, but we are complementary and also in defending our democracies.
He hopes will cement his place in history as the man who mended Britain's ties with Europe. But to his critics, it's not mending, it's dismantling, not boldly, not publicly, but in silence, one policy at a time, without a single vote. That brings us to the end of today's crucial report. Let's be clear. We're not here to fuel panic or push rumours. Every point we've covered is rooted in confirmed reporting and real developments from inside the UK's political and legal corridors. If you believe major national decisions deserve public scrutiny, if you think sovereignty should be debated in Parliament, not handed away behind closed doors, then now is the time to speak up. Share this video, drop your thoughts in the comments, and hit subscribe to stay informed with Britain Info, where we focus on the facts that actually affect your future. Thanks for watching.